ॐ नमः प्रणवार्थाय शुद्धज्ञानैकमूर्तये निर्मलाय प्रशान्ताय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। Time and timelessness. This is the topic which we are just entering. The first portion of the Veda is all about time, doing things on time, and getting the results of your actions on time. And one's whole lifespan is a bunch of time. And that is also divided again into smaller parcels of time. From the non-religious standpoint, we can say childhood, youth, old age, etc. From the traditional standpoint, spiritual standpoint, what can we say? We can say it is divided into 4 ashramas. Studenthood, brahmacharya, grihastha, the householder life, vanaprastha, the letting go of all connections and living a simple life of upasana, meditation, and inner purification. And finally, sannyasa, understanding, taking on a lifestyle of letting go of all actions, relationships, and understanding that one is the truth of them all. So that is also a thing of time. It's one's personal time. Then this kind of a articulation of this time, personal time, and the personal time is connected very much with Swadharma, because the time and duties are very much linked in the Hindu Dharma. Because why is time important? Time is important because the time is carved out on the basis of what one has to do and what one should not do. Injunctions and prohibitions that are there in the Veda. So brahmacharya, it's very clear. In the student life, what must one do? Study. Simple. And what must one not do? Anything else. That is, it's very easily defined. So time and action are connected very much closely. And so the time is there for, the time is the canvas on which the actions are taking place. And then the time is also the canvas on which the results of actions are also being manifested, enjoyed, or suffered, depending upon whether they are pleasant or unpleasant. Very, very interesting. So this is how the whole thing unfolds in the tradition. So there is this personal time, and the personal time, if we look deeply into the idea of personal time and those 4 bifurcations we talked about, it is nothing except the one's duties to be done in a timely fashion. Personal time is the expression of Swadharma done in a timely fashion, whatever one has to do in one's position, in one's life. This is, Swadharma. Then this personal time and the expression of one's action taking place in this personal time is linked on a broad level to the to time from the macro standpoint. From the macro standpoint, also time is discernible. We can see, we can sense. and we can see eons go by. So the macro time and which I will say more things, but the macro time and the micro time are very nicely synergistically connected, because the micro time, the duties and the results of actions are all being experienced in the macro time, within that macro time. And so, therefore, if there is any kind of a truti means like a droppage, like a kind of a departure, disharmony, if one of is out of sync in the personal time, in the expression of one's swadharma, it affects how one experiences the macro time. Very, very interesting. And then swadharma includes things that are optional, not just things that have to be done. Swadharma also includes things such as one's creativity, one's potential, the things that one has to, the latent possibilities of all that one has to express in this life. Whether one is capable or not, whether some karma comes in the way or not, that's not the point. But whatever this particular individual body, mind, sense complex has been created for. Otherwise, all of us would look like clones. Why do we look different? Why do we have different abilities, different genders, different ways of different ethnicities, different ways of connecting to one another and to the world, different talents, different challenges? Because the individual upadhi has something to offer. And so that is also a kind of an expression of one's swadharma. And in a sense, it is optional because it looks like it is optional from the standpoint of the human being. And many times people don't take up that. So therefore, it looks to be optional. But really speaking, it is an innate contribution that one can give, that innate qualities which lead to that contribution. So then there are expressions of that creativity, of that upadhi, dancing along with the cosmic dance of Lord Nataraja. Nataraja is nothing but the dance of time and the dance of creation. So, along with that dance, there is the individual dance. And the whole point of the first portion of the Veda is to make these two dances, synergistic, to make them dance, to make the individual dance in tandem with the larger dance of time. That is why Lord Shiva, Nataraja, is also called Kala, time, the master of time, which comes in the Sri Rudram. Namaste astu Bhagavan Vishveshwaraya Mahadevaaya Trayambakaya Tripurantakaya Trikalagni Kalaya Kalagni Rudraya, which comes 2 or 3 times. And so that Lord is the master of time. He himself dances. When he dances, time unfolds with every step. The nanoseconds, the picoseconds, the microseconds, the seconds, the minutes, the hours, the days, they all just ensue from the bells on his feet each time he steps, each time he twirls. And then those are gifts to humanity because they help us to not get overwhelmed and they help us to just slowly unfold like a flower, slowly blossom little by little without getting completely engulfed in it. So the micro time and the macro time, when it is in sync, it's very beautiful. Life is extremely beautiful. When it is out of sync, that is when one, one has difficulties. On a personal, interpersonal level, one is alienated from oneself, one is disconnected from other jivas, one is disconnected from the source of the universe, from Ishvara, and one is, of course, disconnected at the very root from oneself. So the time is like a pacemaker that is put for somebody whose electrical portion, the nodes of the heart are not working. So what does the pacemaker do? Gives a little impulse. Yes, come back in sync. Don't don't go fib on me and don't do this. Come back in sync. Lup, dup, lup, dup. This is what you're supposed to do. Come back. So this whole global concept of time is like this pacemaker. It's just so fascinating, so wonderful. It's just there to remind and to connect, to reconnect. It's just so wonderful. To connect and reconnect, because the human being is always in in misstep. There is free will, which is freely used to to abuse the setup. So one permanently is born with two left feet. One doesn't know how to dance and cannot be bothered to learn either. And so one is constantly trampling upon the grace of Ishvara, the grace of Mother Earth, and other fellow beings. One is stepping on the toes of everybody. And so the cosmic time is like a pacemaker, so that one can keep in sync. One can keep on keeping in sync. It's just so beautiful. And that is why in the Hindu tradition, there is a very, very complex understanding of time. So beautiful, so minute. And that is why I had to explain the purpose of this first. Because if we just look at the demarcations of time without understanding and without being in sync with the purpose, then we will not get anywhere at all. And so what is this? What are these cosmic bifurcations, demarcations of time? Let us see. So from the macro to the micro, if we go, it is just, it's just very, very mind-boggling. So we have, we have so many small units of time. There is the second, there is the microsecond, picosecond, all these things, lot of different seconds. And then we have a minute. We also have minute. Then we have an hour. Then we before the hour we have what is called a muhurta. Muhurta is a bunch of minutes, ideally 48 minutes. Mandala, muhurta. Then we have half a day. Then we have the whole day, the bright half of the day, the dark half of the day, where one rests. We have that. Then we have a week, Vasara. Then we have a fortnight, Paksha. Since the calendar is based on the moon, so it's a lunar calendar. So we have the bright half of the moon, Paksha, where it waxes up to the full moon. And then we have the dark half of the moon, the Shukla Paksha, bright half, Krishna Paksha, the dark half. And then two Pakshas make 1 month, Masa. Two Pakshas make 1 month. And then 12 Masas make 1 year. This is all just a human understanding of time which we experience based on the movement of the moon, etc. So, movement of the moon and heavenly bodies, occasionally the sun, a few things like Sankranti, celebrated on January 14th, 15th, that is based on the movement of the sun. The rest of it all is lunar. So then we have 1 year, then the fun starts. Then 432 or 436,000 depending on certain calculations, years, is one yuga. One yuga. And so this is the smallest yuga, Kali Yuga. Even though we complain constantly, oh, Kali Yuga, Kali Yuga, Kali Yuga, it's the smallest. So there itself we have to take solace that it is the smallest yuga. And here we are complaining because the first yuga that is discussed is 4 times the length of Kali Yuga. So Kali Yuga, 432,000 years or 436,000 years multiplied into 4 gives you gives you Satya Yuga, also called Krita Yuga. Krita means done. What is done? Everything that needs to be done is done. It is the golden age, the golden yuga where everybody is doing whatever they are supposed to do and everybody is not doing whatever they are not supposed to do, and then they are all living happily. But not ever after, because after that, then the next yuga is Kali Yuga multiplied into 3, Treta Yuga, where again, as I explained earlier, dharma is a little less, little more conflict, little more discomfort, all these things. Then, after the Treta Yuga, then we have Kali Yuga multiplied into 2, Dwapara Yuga. Then finally, of course, the unit called Kali Yuga. This is how it is. And then, as I said, it's a pendular motion. So, Satya, then Treta, Dwapara, Kali. And then from Kali, because of the deterioration in dharma, one cannot go back to Satya. We have to make our way back from Dwapara, Treta to Kali, to Satya, and then likewise. Then about these yugas, there is one more thing to say, very, very interesting. The yugas are named on the movement of, on the name of the dice used to gamble in ancient India. This is exactly the game of dice where the Pandavas were tricked because the die was loaded and the dice were loaded, and then the Pandavas were tricked and their kingdom usurped from them. In fact, even Draupadi was mistakenly, because of the Pandavas' own ignorance, staked, and she was also supposedly given away. And like this is the famous game of dice. So, what are these dice? Very interesting. So, this particular dice used in this particular game has, just like a cube, has the faces, 4 sides, up and down, 6 faces, but only 4 of them are marked. Only 4 of them are marked, the other 2 are blank. Okay. And so these 4 of them, what are the numbers there? So we don't have numbers 1 to 6, obviously, because the other 2 are blank. So we have numbers 1 to 4. So if you go like this and throw the die, then you get number 4, and then everybody is very happy because that number 4 is very auspicious. This is Krita Yuga. The Krita is the name here of that particular throw of dice where you get this number 4, and it is considered very, very auspicious. Then you shake the die again and then you throw it again. Let's say, for hypothetically, that you get number 3, little less auspicious, but will do. Then you get number 2, still less auspicious, but theek hai, it's okay. And then what? Then finally you get number 1. Do not move. It is considered, the one who gets number 1 is considered the loser. So the names of the yuga, based on the throw of the dice, I find it very interesting. So, of course, the Kali Yuga is the loser of all yugas. There is no doubt about that. But then what I find interesting is that time is equated to a gamble. Time is just a gamble. It's random. It's relative. I mean, here we have a wonderful, this is a very interesting irony here. Here we have a wonderful, all these very small, tithi, one particular day, and then we have Vasara week, and then Paksha, Masa, all these minute, and very nicely calibrated portions of time. But at the level of the Yuga, it's a gamble. So this shows that it is the fact that the yugas are named after the throw of the die shows that time is relative ultimately. So this is what this is exactly how the thing unfolds. So the yuga. So do we stop at yuga? Of course not. That is just the beginning. So then we have the yuga, and then we have another unit of time called manvantara. What is this manvantara? It's made up of two words, manu plus antara. Manu means the first human being on earth in a particular yuga. Antara means the duration or the reign or the tenure of this Manu. So this is what it is, and so therefore each Manvantara has 71 yugas. 71 yugas, not just 71 as in what is that? These four you count and then they become four. No, the four yugas you count as one cycle. So 71 such cycles is reigned by one Manu each time. And there are 14 kinds of Manus, each one bringing their own flair and their own knowledge and everything. And right now we are in the age of the 7th Manu out of the 14th. We are halfway there in terms of this particular cycle. And then his name is Vivaswan Manu. And then so we are in the Vaivasvata Manvantara. Vaivasvata Manvantara. Very, very interesting. And Vivaswan means the sun. Someone who has descended from what is that called? Solar dynasty. Vivaswan Manu. And so we are in the 7th Manvantara. And then so you can do the math and you can see how 71 yuga cycles. So 4 yuga cycles is one particular unit of time. And then 71 yuga cycles make up what is called a manvantara. And so 71 yuga cycles make one manvantara. And so in number of years, it is 306,720,000 years. Okay, so this is how many years is one manvantara. All right, and then we also have some kind of a kalpa. So when we have 14 manvantaras, when all the 14 manvantaras, and each manvantara, let us not forget, is 71 yuga cycles, and then that multiplied into 14 manvantara periods make up one kalpa, which is equal to only 4.32 billion years. Okay, this is one kalpa. And then what happens is that this kalpa, see, all this is from the Vishnu Purana, Bhagavata Purana, all these are all Puranic materials. Okay. And then so these kalpas is, what is that? And the kalpas are also, okay, do we stop at kalpas? No, the kalpas themselves are divided into 30. There are 30 kalpas. There are 30 kalpas and they all have fascinating names and fascinating definitions. So if for the curious ones, we are in the 51st kalpa. which is called Shvetavaraha Kalpa. Shvetavaraha Kalpa means the Kalpa of the white boar. White boar. And maybe that's why life is a big bore in Kali Yuga, I don't know. But this is what is called the white boar, or the white pig, wild pig boar, something like that, Varaha. So the white pig Kalpa is what we are in the midst of right now. And then this corresponds. So why is this important? Because the yugas and the kalpas, etc., they correspond to the life of the creator, Lord Brahmaji. And just like in physics, we have the fastest unit of time, which corresponds to the speed of light. We don't have anything faster than that. So similarly, the life of Lord Brahma becomes like the ultimate unit by which everything is judged. So the kalpa here, just to give a little bit more of a understanding here, the kalpa is, so one particular kalpa is 1 day in the, for us, one kalpa is 1 day in the life of Lord Brahma. Just 1 day. By the time he reads, he doesn't need to read the paper because he knows what's happening. By the time he has his coffee, goes for his morning walk, and then comes back, has breakfast, several thousand yugas have come and gone. This is talked about in the Bhagavad Gita in the 8th chapter. So, 1 day in the life of Brahmaji is 1,000 yoga cycles already gone. And so, like this, so this is the kalpa. And when the kalpa finishes, one kalpa finishes, there is what is called pralaya, where Ishvara takes back the universe along with all the along with all the jivas who stop complaining, and then who are more or less in a state of demanifestation. So they are one with Ishvara. It's like a deep sleep, a cosmic sleep. A cosmic sleep where the whole Jagat is withdrawn. And how long does that last? 4.32 billion years. That much, as much, however long the Kalpa is, that much long the break in between is. And let's not forget, time itself gone. Time itself has been swallowed up. Space has been swallowed up. The individual jiva with its individual complaints, I'm having a bad day and this is terrible, this is not going my way, all swallowed up. Everything swallowed up. It's just so fascinating. Everything is totally swaha, 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 until there is a quickening, until that Maya Shakti, which is again Avyakta, unmanifest, at the correct time, at the time for that creation to be put forth again, to be projected again, until there is a certain quickening, and until also the jivas start getting restless because they have lain supine for a long time. They have lain supine and they have just to, they want to wake up, and it's not enough to wake up. They need a field of experience. They need a kshetra to be able to get out all their karmas and all their desires. Mind you, the karmas of the jivas have not ended because there is endless numbers of karma. They are just in a state of suspension in the pralaya. So this is the Hindu concept of time. And you see, Kali Yuga, about which we are making a big deal, is just a small beep in this whole arrangement. Manvantara, Yoga, Manvantara, Kalpa. And then what to talk of in this scheme of things? What can be said about, oh, I'm really anxious because I'm late for an appointment. Your appointment doesn't even take the space of a little point. That's the point that about this appointment. So Why is this so intricate? As I told you, it is to show the randomness of time, and at the same time the empirical time which has been so beautifully calculated. That's why the Vedic horoscope is extremely at what is called the sidereal horoscope is very, very accurate. That's why it is so accurate. And so this is because it is just they are the masters of time. And then if you parse time in such a way, and then the day is not far off when you start looking into the nature of the one who is parsing time. Who is it that can cut up time and then make it into a wonderful, what the children are taught in first grade? You just fold the pieces of paper into an accordion style and then do something like this, and there is all these stick figures in like a garland, each one holding a heart. Where did this come from? How did this happen? Well, that is what it is. The one who is cutting up of time, cutting up the time, has to be timeless, has to not come under the spell, and has to be free of all its machinations, has to be completely out of the scheme of the ravages of time. In other words, timeless, in other words, immortal, in other words, infinite. In fact, a pondering on time itself leads to the message of Vedanta that one is timeless. So, as I said, the duties that one does, the articulation of time in the form of one's swadharma, keeps one going and keeps one tethered to Ishvara, tethered to other beings, tethered not in a bad way, but connected to other beings, connected to Ishvara, connected to everything, connected very, very nicely. And then from this sense of connectedness, there one has to graduate to this, to the timelessness, to understanding oneself as timeless. And if one starts to pontificate on each unit of time and write a PhD thesis about it, then it becomes extremely difficult to do that. And so therefore the bridge of Kali Santarana Upanishad also helps one to cross time. We are not just crossing one yuga, because really, this is the yuga that one is living in. If this is crossed, then everything else is also crossed. And Lord Yama feels very happy when you cross when you cross time. Why? Because he's tired of being the in the CEO of the warehouse of various disembodied souls that come to him. He's tired of that. And so that's why it's called warehouse, because nobody knows where it is. And so therefore, so in this warehouse, he has to stand at the assembly line, and there are at least two little, what is that called? Two little conveyor belts going. One, come back because defective this time did not get Vedanta. This time did not study the Kali Santarana Upanishad. This time did not, did not manage to master the Ragadveshas. So throw this jiva on this particular conveyor belt that loops back around, goes through like a car wash. The jiva gets washed off, and then the Namarupa gets washed off. A new Namarupa is printed, stamped, boxed, and sent to a pair of expectant parents. How nice! Who distribute sweets. Oh, new baby, wonderful. New baby is not new. Not at all. Not at all new. And then it's been an old soul, so to speak, just come back for taking care of a few more things. Then the other conveyor belt, it's very lonely, because from there, yad gatva na nivartante, from there is no coming back, and no punaragamana. So for 1,000 ones that Lord Yama examines and puts on this conveyor belt in the assembly line to be washed out of the Namarupas and to be returned. back to the world of the mortals and all other various lokas. For every millions of that, one of them goes the other way from which there is no coming back. So this is exactly why the study of the Upanishad, the main thing that is that it does, the study of any Upanishad calls out the spoof of time, because the time is the time is actually the unfoldment of time is happening on the canvas. That is the consciousness, that is this awareness, which is the definition of you. So this is a wonderful dance. Now look at the dance from this standpoint. Look at it, how beautiful it is. Everything is unfolding on the canvas of time, and you are the canvas for the canvas of time. You are the adhishthana of time. In fact, that itself is, you are the one who is cutting up the time. And this is very obvious, even in our own lived history. And even in the most, in the recent times, we see that before the industrial revolution, people worked whenever they felt like. They worked in groups of families. They had a few sheep. Let us say this was in England, and some people went and sheared the sheep, and then and all that fur was lying there for a few days. Then they went and cleaned the fur and washed it off, and then made it into. Then later on made it into yarn, and then knitted some sweaters and took it to some weekend market, and then sold it and lived off their wages. Then the machines came. And when the machines came, the whole concept of time changed, because the machines were large, unwieldy, but efficient. And so everybody, and expensive, and everybody could not own them. And so a few rich people, enterprising people, put the machines in a central place. And then what? And then everybody had to trot off and go there and sit there. And of course, it wasn't efficient for one person to shear the sheep and then take a nap and then wash the yarn and then straighten the yarn, dye the yarn, and then make it into a sweater, knit the yarn. It's not expedient. That's how the whole assembly line thing came into work. There's only people who raise sheep, and then they give away the sheep, sell the sheep. And then there are only a few people who are shearing the sheep. Then some people are just dyeing the yarn. So then some people are just making that fur into thread. They're making it, that yarn, twisting the yarn and making it into yarn. Then after that, the weaving and the knitting comes. All that is done by various kinds of machines. So what are the human beings? They are also machines, standing and taking care of these machines. That is how the whole time has been revolutionized. It has had an indelible impact. Even now we think 9 to 5, this is factory timings. 8 to 5, 9 to 5. Why only 9 to 5? Because otherwise the people will rebel. Without the people, the machines will not function. This is why the people were needed. So even now we are in the tyranny of this 9 to 5, and then the weekends off, and then you work for the whole year, and then maybe 1 or 2 weeks off you get. We are still in that tyranny. So you can see how relative and how random the unfoldment of this time is. And based on a particular era, it takes certain iterations. And so this is what is to be transcended. This is exactly what is to be transcended, because it's not like, if I decide I want to transcend the difficulties in Kali Yuga, then this is just a kind of a this is a kind of a so-called transcendence that is not complete, because the difficulties can come anytime. The difficulties can come even in when there is when there is just your own personal time. There also difficulties can manifest. So the point that this Upanishad teaches us so beautifully is that it's not the difficulties that one needs to transcend, because the difficulties are not really difficulties. The difficulties are called difficulties because I find it difficult to deal with them, That is why I have named them difficulties. So the best thing to do is to swallow up time, to transcend time itself, so that when one understands oneself as timeless, the difficulties become small little beings that are, like little babies, uh, toothless babies who are incapable of biting. Even if you put your hand in an infant's mouth and it brings down its jaws on your finger, then it is not, it doesn't hurt. It's actually very pleasant. So transcending. So here, Kali Santarana Upanishad is modestly named, but actually it should be changed to Kala Santarana Upanishad, the Upanishad by which we transcend time itself. How? We'll find out later. And I think one class is going to be there is going to be a Homa. I will let the organizers announce that. ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्तिः 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 हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ. Thank you.